Right, hello, welcome to the April 2021 Skyguide from Stanion and Northants Astronomy Club. As usual, I'm going to run through some of the highlights you can see in the night sky throughout the upcoming month, and a news item, and also some images from some of our members which I've taken during the last month. So I'll crack on and start off with the planets as usual. So Venus is a mag -3.8, so still quite a bright object in the sky. It's best viewed after sunset, towards the end of the month though, as currently it's a bit too close to the sun to get any good observations of the of that planet. Yes, like I say, towards the end of the month, and you'll need to be looking towards the west after sunset, and you should see that the bright planet shining away once the sun has dipped below the horizon and the sky starts to get dark enough. So yeah, mag -3.8 is pretty bright, and quite a challenging spot on the 25th and I think the 26th of April will be Venus and Mercury. So like I said before, if you can spot Venus in the twilight shining away, just up and to the right a little bit, you should be able to make out Mercury as well. Now that's mag -1.5, so fairly bright-ish. But a pair of binoculars should be able to show you both planets in the same field of view on that date. Just be aware of the sun and make sure it is below the horizon before you start looking for it, because you don't want to be getting any damage to your eyes. Mars, we're starting to lose Mars now in the western sky after it gets dark, but it's still visible at the minute. It's in the constellation of Aries, Taurus, as we go in, as we start April. But by the end of the month though, it will be up close to one of the feet of Gemini, and it continues to dim as well, and also gets smaller in apparent diameter. On the 17th of April, there's a crescent moon very close by, so that will make a nice pair in the sky, good photo opportunity. And also, here we go, by the month end, this is the 27th of April, it will be very close to M35, which is an open cluster just off the right hand foot of the right twin of Gemini. Stellarium now calls that cluster the shoe buckle cluster for some reason. It doesn't come up as M35, but if you search for M35 in Stellarium, it will show you that cluster there, as you can see on this screenshot. And there you go, Mars will be just above that cluster of stars, so you should be able to see that nicely in a pair of binoculars, or if you've got a wide enough field of view through your telescope, it should look pretty nice. Moving on now to Jupiter. Very low in the morning sky. It's a morning object currently, so just before sunrise. I think it's visible maybe about 45 minutes, maybe an hour before sunrise. You'll see it it's in the east-southeast as it rises. It's pretty bright. It's mag -2, not quite as bright as Venus, but still a very bright planet to see, but very low. It doesn't get much altitude at all, so you will need a low horizon and to the southeast to see Jupiter. And Jupiter is at its equinox sort of phase this month as well, which means the moons are quite I think perpendicular to the not perpendicular, they're quite in line with the with the spin of Jupiter with its axes, and as such they can cast shadows onto each other. And I read that there's a very tricky mutual event that you can observe coming up, so I think Io will be casting its shadow onto Callisto, which are two of the moons of Jupiter. It will be very tricky to observe, but you should be able to see the dimming of Callisto on the 12th of April this is, and it'll be around about 5:30 in the morning when this maximum the maximum shadow will be over Callisto. So if you fancy something very challenging to see, start observing it about, I think it's about 15-20 minutes before that time, and then you should be able to see noticeable sort of dimming of that moon. So you'll need a telescope certainly to see that event, but like I say, it is very tricky. We're a bit light on events this month, so I thought I'd just throw that one in there. This is an image I took of Jupiter. As you can see, this is casting a shadow onto the planet, from one of the Galilean moons. The shadow is being cast there onto the planet's surface, and like I said, this month some of the mutual events between the moons, you'll be able to see the shadow being cast onto some of the other moons. Okay, moving on now to Saturn. Just to the right of Jupiter, it will be rising a bit before Jupiter. You can see Saturn in the morning sky. So again, in the southeast before the sun rises, you'll be able to pick that out. And on the 6th of April, there'll be a crescent moon very nearby, just down to the right a bit of Saturn. Before the sun rises, you'll be able to see the moon joining Saturn in the twilight. And here we go again, another image I took quite a few years ago now of Saturn through my telescope from my back garden when it was much more favourable in altitude as it is now. So picture opportunities are very few and far between at the minute for the two big planets of our solar system. Moving on now to some deep sky objects that I'll recommend viewing or imaging throughout April. The Ursa Major is nice and high in the sky now as the sky gets dark, and my first recommendation would be to go and have a look at this pair, which is M108 and M97, or the Surfboard Galaxy and the Owl Nebula. As you can see here from my screenshots, just off the kind of like the base of the pan, if you like, of the Great Bear is where you can find these two objects, and this is what they'll look like if you took a photograph of the pair. If they both fit in your field of view like they do through my telescope. You can see there on the left hand side the Owl Nebula. You can kind of make out why it gets its name. You see that, Amelia? So you can see its two eyes there staring out from a nice round face. And then over to the right of the picture, got the Surfboard Galaxy. You can tell from the shape there, it's kind of like a spiral galaxy, but it's viewed at an angle, so it appears as in the shape of a surfboard, I suppose. So moving on now, of course, Leo is making its way into our sky as well in the evening, at night time as well. So the Leo triplet is always a lovely trio of galaxies to observe. So it's just off the under like the hind quarters of the Lion, if you like. The galaxies are NGC 3623, NGC 3627 and NGC 3628. They form a nice little triplet there, nicely viewed through a pair of binoculars or through a telescope. And you normally have to sort of make your way around the trio to see them all. They make nice little faint fuzzes in a very small area of sky. And here's an image I took several years ago of the Leo triplet. You see two spiral galaxies viewed sort of at an angle, just like the Surfboard Galaxy, and then an edge-on spiral as well. And you can see the dust lanes sort of splitting the light that's coming to us from that galaxy. That's the sort of thing you can expect to see if you took a photograph of the triplet. Do you like that one?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
No.
It's very nice, according to Amelia. So on the 22nd of April, we've got the Lyriad meteor shower peaks. So the shower actually lasts for a couple of weeks, from the 14th to the 30th. As Earth makes its way through the debris field of a comet. I can't remember which one it is. but on the 22nd we make our way through the thickest part of that debris field, and usually results in the Lyrian meteor shower. You can see here the radiant it'll be just off to the right of the star Vega, which is in Lyra, and hasn't got a great maximum hourly rate, but it's still worth getting out there if you've got a clear sky to have a little look to see if you can see any meteors. It's the best chance you'll have at this time of the year to catch them shooting stars.
That's cool.
That is cool. Right. The space station is visible only until the 4th of April, so it's the 3rd of April time recording today, so tomorrow night we'll see the last one in the evening, and then the passes will move to the it will move to the early hours of the morning from the 28th of April. And if I just move to this slide here, you can see on the 4th of April, this is in the evening at around about 8:28. The ISS will rise from the west and then pass under Orion and under Sirius, and then fade away into the east. That's the view from my garden a few years ago. I saw the ISS passing over my garden. So a bit of news now. Mars Ingenuity helicopter, which is currently stowed underneath the Perseverance rover that has recently landed on Mars. The helicopter's been lowered very slowly, bit by bit, and this is the view under there currently of the helicopter. It's ready to be deployed onto the surface of Mars, and the legs had to be lowered like one by one as they very gently made sure it's in the correct orientation, and it's still connected to the rover at the minute, so it's getting its battery, or it's getting its energy from the rover still to keep all the components nice and warm inside there. So once it drops onto the surface, it'll be under its own power. It is solar powered, but I think the heating elements won't heat it to as higher temperature as they're being kept now. So what they're going to do, they're going to drop it onto the surface, I think in a few days time. I think the first flight is scheduled for around about the 11th of April, so keep an eye on NASA news for that. It'll be the first time there's ever been a powered flight on another planet, so it's quite a historic moment. It's going to be happening this month for the NASA Mars Ingenuity helicopter. It'd be really good to keep an eye out for that. And interestingly, I think there is a very tiny piece of the Wright brothers' first aircraft is actually on the Ingenuity Mars helicopter as well, so that's a pretty cool thing that they're doing there by sending a little piece of that aircraft along for the ride as well. So it's going to have made 2 historic flights in its lifetime. So it will drop it onto the surface. The Mars rover will drive away from the helicopter to leave it exposed to the Martian atmosphere, and also the Martian night, which gets down to like minus 120 something degrees Celsius. So they have to see if it will survive the Martian night, and if all goes well, they'll then be able to go ahead and start testing all the components like the motors and the sensors and so forth, and then hopefully the 11th of April we'll be able to see if it's successfully done its first flight, which is all autonomous. There's no one can control it in real time. It has to do everything by itself, so we've got all our fingers crossed for that. I'm moving on now to some images now from our members. Paul Smith sent us an image of the super worm moon from the 29th of March, and there on the screen there you can see all the details there of how it captured and processed this image. What do you reckon to Paul's moon?
I do.
I think it's awesome. It's really cool what you can capture with some equipment from your own garden. So moving on now, this is 2 of the components of the Leo triplet. So this was M66 and M65. I can't remember their NGC designations, but they've also got Messier numbers to them as well. And there we go, he took 54 61 second subframes here. You reading that? Yeah. And yeah, he processed them with Sequator and Affinity Photo, and used AstroFlat Pro plugin, I believe, for Affinity Photo. Yep, so there we go, he's captured the two edge-on spiral galaxies, not the edge-on, sorry, like the angled spiral galaxies that we see there. Didn't quite squeeze in the the third component of the Leo triplet. I think he's got quite a smaller field of view than my Newtonian telescope has. And yeah, still really cool images from Paul there. Moving on now to Graham, a couple of different captures of the moon last month. He's got a very nice crescent moon there, and then followed by a gibbous phase moon as well. He's done a bit more processing on the right hand image there, so you can see a bit of colour coming through in that process there from Graham.
That one looks cool.
You like the crescent moon, do you? I've always preferred crescent moons to gibbous moons. It's my personal preference. And then finally, an image from John Allen. That's M13. That's the Great Cluster in Hercules. It's quite an easy spot with a pair of binoculars. Yeah, I can normally spot this one through a finder scope when I try to line up on it, but if you've got a telescope, it really does look like a little jewellery box of stars, blazing away in the constellation of Hercules, which of course rises in our evening sky at the minute. So yeah, it's a nice time of the year to have a look at that too. So
it's like a pink colour.
yeah, it's cool, isn't it? So there we go, that's it for now. I'll leave you at the end here with this little demonstration animation from NASA of the Mars Ingenuity helicopter. This is the sort of thing they're hoping is going to happen this month. And I hope you all get some clear skies and you get to make some use of my Skyguide and get some nice clear skies. Yeah, get your telescopes out, get your binoculars out, see some meteors. Tune into NASA TV to see the scientists getting really excited when they've got the confirmation that Ingenuity had a successful flight. As you can see, the Perseverance rover is going to be filming it as well with its cameras. So hopefully we'll get some. Hopefully we'll get some really cool imagery, back showing the first flight on Mars. So there we go. Just as this little video is going to be ending, I'm going to be stopping this recording in a second.
Taking forever.
There we go. So clear skies to you all. I'll see you all again next month.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.